right. Thank you very
Welcome
much.
to the campus.
Hey, so in case you guys don't know, I am in Austin, Texas with Daniel here from the Whiskey Vault. Been having an absolutely fantastic time down here despite the allergies and the sneezing.
Dude, and we woke up this morning and there are 3 major allergies all in extra high on the allergy alert. So
the flowers are booming like crazy.
It looks beautiful.
It's really, really, really pretty down there. A little humid if you're used to California weather. But it's really, really, really nice. Had a fantastic flight down there thus far, but having an absolutely fantastic time.
Well, dude, we're glad you're here.
Thank you very much. It's awesome. So there's been a couple questions in my mind that I've had. And the thing is, different people have different gifts, different abilities, different backgrounds, different focuses.
Yes.
So I tend to go, depending on what people's strength, if someone's more technical, if someone's more electronic, I go to different people for different questions depending on what their background is.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
I grew up with 4 brothers. We're all super nerdy. A lot of
I get that.
Academically very, very different. We all have at least a master's degree, and academically from really different places. And the great thing is I get together with my brothers and I absorb things from my brothers.
Yes.
And so I'm probably most eclectic musically, artistically, and interest because I appreciate their differences. And so now that I'm here and I have the advantage to someone who I think has a certain understanding and interest in a couple different categories that I think don't get talked about, but I'm really, really curious on. The first one has to do with marketing and branding. So I went back, a lot of people know my story, I went back to college to study winemaking.
Right.
And you have all the required classes. And the ones are like, yeah, man, I'm going to love this class. So you have the production classes, and the production classes cover different parts of the process. And you have to intern with wineries to learn this part of the process. You have the sensory analysis classes. The bad part is you also have to smell a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, you do.
So you have
it's like, I remember in high school I was in the milk judging for FFA.
Oh, jeez.
And you had to have like 19 milk samples.
Does this
and
smell
like,
bad
one
to
of
you?
these is sulfur, one of these is lemon.
I don't know, taste it.
Yeah, oh God.
Oh, jeez. So, okay, so you have to learn all these various flaws of wines as well. It's not just the good stuff. You have to learn the flaws as well, what the root causes are, how do you fix this.
Right.
But that was fine. There was a World of Wine class, which I really, really liked. There was because we're California, we had to study California. There was one class, there was a required class, and I went into it going, whatever, it's not my thing. But it's a required class, what the heck? And it turned out to be one, I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. And it was a class on wine marketing.
Oh.
And it was very...
Oh, that's good.
And here's what I got out of it. Let's see what you think. Because all the other classes were about the wine, how to make the wine, how to analyze the wine. This is flipped. The marketing was how to understand people.
Oh, yeah.
And how to, you're not
why they're buying wine.
Right. And read people. And because I talk about the people, the product, and the place.
Yeah.
And so it's more about understanding people and why people respond the way they do. So talk to me a little bit about that. And then the pros and cons of that as well.
Wow, it's a big subject. Okay, but this is what we do. This is why the school exists. Right. First and foremost, let me say, there are 2 things that are fundamentals at Wizard Academy that we always teach. And one of those is that people buy things to reinforce to themselves and the world who they are. Mm-hmm. Period. Cars, clothes, wine, whiskey. You buy things to remind yourself of who you are and to tell others who you are.
Or even maybe who you want to be as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, again, who you think you are.
Right.
This is who I am. Whether you are or not, it doesn't matter. It's who I want to be. This is maybe even aspirational. And that shitty marketing is about you, your product, your service, and your business. Mm-hmm. Good marketing is about the consumer and how your product or service is going to change their life for the better.
Right. One of the things I noticed, it was really interesting, you talk in the 1940s, 1950s, it used to be, here is this laundry detergent, here is this stuff, and how it will help you do your laundry better. And what flipped was, whether it's toothpaste or whatever else is, this will make you smell better, taste better, be more attractive.
Yeah.
And it really had nothing to do with the inherent qualities, and everything for decades later, new and improved. Whether or not they changed anything or not, it was just about trying to fool people into thinking something that wasn't a reality.
So that's a pendulum so far that it forgets that. So in music, You've got the one-hit wonder. This is
Right.
like clickbait for musicians.
Right.
You had this one great song everybody loved, and they're like, I'm going to get the album, and then the album sucked,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you remember we talked about this in my office. Niels Bohr said there's the opposite of a fact is a falsehood. The opposite of a profound truth is often another profound truth. And so you do need to talk about the people and who they will become by being involved in what you're doing, right? But if you get it so far away from what you actually do that all you're talking about is aspiration, and your product is, right, you're going to win ladies, you're going to get taller, your hair will grow back, right? How? Because of this Microsoft software.
Right.
Like, oh, okay, now we've gone now we're just lying, right? Now we're trying to tie into aspirations with no connection to reality. And that's called Super Bowl commercials.
Right.
It's all aspirational and fun entertainment, but no real tie back to what matters. And then on the other hand, if all you talk about is why this matters, you never remember to connect it to people, right?
Right.
So the trick is both.
Right.
The trick is to talk about who drinks the kind of person. So let's keep it to whiskey. Who's the kind of person who drinks this whiskey? Who's the kind of people who care about this whiskey, right? And then once people have decided, this is me, this is my tribe, this is what I want, then you fill it with the facts that let them validate their already existing decision.
Right.
Right? So if someone thinks of themselves as somebody who pursues the art and the craft, you can't sell them on a product that's not artful and craftful.
Right.
That's lying.
Right.
And that's why everyone hates marketing.
So here's one thing is, so there's some people won't even watch this video, or they'll quickly turn it off just based on the title of it, because they have a really negative.
Wait. What's the title of it?
I don't. I'll make it up later. so I don't know. I'll make some shit up. I'll find out what's most marketable, and that's what I'll put in the title. So marketing, branding, advertising are these sort of three hinges of this particular sector of how to get people to buy your whiskey. The thing is, I like artful commercials. They're either visually stunning or they're funny. I don't even care what the product is. I just keep watching it because it makes the funny. Or I just think they communicate really well, or they tell a good story or something like that. And some people, they'll shoot all marketing, all branding as just who I just care about what's in the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't realize is if I just showed you what's between here and here, that brown liquid doesn't tell you anything.
It doesn't tell you a story.
And it doesn't seem any different than anything else. And the reality is, if you look into a shop and you got hundreds of bottles on multiple rows lined up, you have to have something else that says something other than this color of this liquid in the bottle. And that's where branding, marketing, and advertising has to communicate in such a way, particularly if you're the one selling, you need to stand out from and someone say, hey, I'm one of 1,000. Notice me. You have to do something to get noticed.
I think there's a fallacy among makers and people and artists, right? That a product will speak for itself. Yeah. And they'll say that. Well, we'll just make a good product and it will speak for itself. That never happens. That's insane. Right?
That's romantic.
It will not speak for itself. Yes. So, but they are also not wrong in that if you tell the most amazing film story ever, but when you get to the product, it's shit, then it's not going to sell anything, right?
It's got to back it up.
There's 3 tiers to real marketing, not selling, but real marketing, which I think is simply telling the story that is already there in a way that helps people understand that this is where they belong. Right? Not lying or making up a story, finding the story that's there, taking the parts of it that everyone else can identify with it, and giving them a place to belong. Right? So first, you need to tell the story. You need to tell it well, right? But that just gets them in the door. Then they need to be able to have the actual information that validates the decision that they've already made, right? Here's why you chose this, and you're right? And it needs to be real, not false. And then their experience of the product needs to be consistent with all the messaging up to that point, so that they have they've heard the story, it's romantic, they got the information to justify the story, they had the experience and it lined up with the story, and now you have rabid family fans as opposed to just
you ever
made a sale.
You ever seen a movie trailer? You go, looks like a freaking awesome movie.
And then you saw the whole movie?
Yeah, you essentially saw the whole movie because they put the best parts in the trailer and the rest of the movie was crap.
That's most marketing.
Absolutely.
Right? So think of it like this. My last car was a BMW.
Okay.
There's no purely logical, practical reason to own a BMW. Right?
Right.
There's just not one. Now,
I was racing a Ferrari on the way over here, by the
way.
way. In my Dodge Challenger.
Same thing for a Ferrari, right? Once you decide you want a BMW because you've bought into the BMW and they're beautiful or whatever, right? Step 2 is you're going to give yourselves all of these practical reasons why it makes sense that you should have a BMW. It's a well-built machine. It lasts forever. It's the ultimate driving experience, whatever. Right? That's the logic to support the emotional decision you've already made. If you then got in the car and it drove like a Geo Metro, BMW would be out of business within a few years, right?
So sort of wrap this up, and the one concern I have, and I think a lot of fellow, and this is actually a topic people are talking a lot about, is, so I went to the Whiskey Fest and met a master distiller of a particular distillery, and he introduced his coworker there. This is so and so. She's head of the marketing department, and I felt bad because I kind of just jumped on. I said, "So, are you driving the bus?" And she was like, "No." And what I was it was my fault. I shouldn't have come on that hard. But but the issue is sometimes in some brands, the marketing and the hype of the marketing, the branding, the advertising they're making the decisions over the ones who are actually
making the product.
Making the product. And unfortunately,
that's very common though. That's common in every industry.
But do you think that works long term?
No.
And that's the problem.
No, it's a train wreck long term.
Yeah, and that's
right.
The problem.
What happens often is any company, not just whiskey, any company gets big enough they can finally afford real marketing firms, and they hire a marketing firm. The marketing firm doesn't do any of the work to understand what they're stepping into. They simply come up with some ideas that will definitely be glitzy and cool, and people will like it. But there's no tie to what's actually happening. There's no soul to it. There's just glitz and glamour. Right.
And what's important is the whiskey people, the whiskey fandom, the long-term consumers, if you want to call them consumers, we can sniff bullshit.
We're getting better at it every year.
Yeah, and everything's becoming much more, and we're talking about it, and things become a lot more transparent. So, I like the visual arts. I like art. I like music, and I like how you can communicate this message and bring these gifts and skills together. Because in being a YouTuber, we use a little bit of that, or some of us do, in trying to convey our message and what we do. We try to get better visuals. We try to get better things, or bring in humor. There's these other parts to it, rather than we're not all just sitting there going, this is this. And oh, by the way, in case you want to know what we're drinking, this is the Balcones. How do you pronounce this?
Hecheceros,
Texas single malt whiskey.
This is their single malt
port cask,
aged in tawny port casks.
61.5% alcohol by volume.
Holy crap.
And we're going to finish this before
long. Here's the thing I want to say about this.
This is freaking awesome. You got to come to Texas.
It really is. Have you, you know the moment when you meet somebody and you're like, I don't know, right? And then you hang out with them, and at some point you hang out long enough that they tell you a real story about themselves, usually involving pain and hardship that's fundamentally human.
Right.
And I don't care what disagreement you have with that person, when you hear their human struggle, you identify with a kindred spirit of I'm human, you're human, we both have this life struggle.
We've been through some of the same bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard to hate somebody when you've identified with the same human struggle. But it's also easier to love somebody, right? I think bad marketing is like shitty makeup, right? It's lipstick on a pig, right? But good marketing is simply telling the human story that's inside of a company, allowing you to identify with it, and it has to be true, but that story has to be told. And people are usually pretty bad at telling it themselves.
Right. All right, so I want to wrap this up. I want to thank Daniel for recording this with me and just give a little bit. So if you guys are interested in studying and learning more about this, I take you go into much more about this here at the school?
We do. In the Whiskey Marketing School, it's very much a communications school.
So highly recommend it. The place here is absolutely fantastic. The weather is it was a little cloudy and a lot overcast and it was humid, but the winds kicked up. It's cleared up. It's a beautiful place. Really, really nice place. No joke. I've actually been looking for a job near. Just
Hey,
what the heck? I might move down here.
you need to bring yourself to Austin, my
Get out of
friend.
California. So anyway, so I want to thank you very much and for the insights. And again, so if there any particular, so I have some books and I can, but most of my marketing books are on wine, and I can put links down below. Is there anything particularly,
Dude, read David Ogilvy.
David Ogilvy?
David Ogilvy understood human beings.
Okay.
And then just understand that applies now, even with new methods of marketing.
Right. And if you're an artist, particularly if you're a visual artist with computers and so forth, and you like whiskey, this is an area to get into and to apply your skills as well.
Yeah, please. We need people who are good at telling the stories of the artists.
Right. Which is actually what I want to talk about in our next video. So stay tuned. I'm going to post another video. We're actually going to talk about being a sommelier and storytelling. All right. So if you haven't already, subscribe and like this video. And you guys have got to have heard of me watching these guys. And I'll put a link to them down below. But next video. Cheers. Hey, if you like my review, be sure to check out these other whiskey videos.